Hello and welcome to a bit of a highlights reel. I kind of just smushed everything together, chopped it into pieces. My first few guests on my Ask the Expert series. They are long conversations, and I always think it's important you want to know whether you're going to buy into it or whether there's anything actually in there for you. So we're going to hear from Kat, we're going to hear from Andy, Martin and Danielle, and just see if there's anything in there for you. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to my very first Ask the Expert as part of IDIFM. So we have Kat with us today. She's a sports massage therapist and personal trainer. And just tell us a bit about yourself, Kat.
I qualified as a sports massage therapist back in March 2019. So I've been doing it about 18 months now, I think. No, maybe a bit less. And I made my own business, so I do it part-time. So I still work in an admin role for a forensics company, and then I do this Tuesday and Wednesdays at my Methley site, and do it on an evening. So I enjoy helping people. I've enjoyed the process, so I've done mainly the sports massage side of things. And then recently I went on to do my personal training, so that was right at the beginning of the year. Did my fitness instructor level 2, and then I qualified as my level 3 in August. So I haven't really had a chance to use that yet because of a pandemic, maybe.
So yeah, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. So it has has had a struggle for a lot of people who are qualified with as well. So it's not just some of us. So yeah, I had one personal training session before it all went into lockdown. So it's, I've had a personal trainer as well for 3 years. So I had that background and knowledge from them. And then that's how I kind of got into wanting to do sports massage, really, was having a personal trainer and seeing how confident I got through exercise. And being able to help people, having helped people now during sports massage, it's a nice, happy feeling, you know, when you've helped someone. Whereas in my main full-time job, I'm just kind of like, yay, another criminal's gone to jail. It's like it's kind of a very opposite job to what I usually would do on an evening. So I have enjoyed it.
If you had a couple of sentences of advice you could give someone, so particularly at the moment, I think we're in lockdown, so there's a lot of people working from home this year. So I would say there's going to be a lot more people feeling maybe low back issues from being sat, you know, on a chair that's unfamiliar, something like that. So is there something that a short snippet that someone can take away from this kind of interview and be useful, really? Is there anything that you can think of that comes to mind?
Definitely taking breaks. If you're sat there's always usually, even when you're at work, they always say take a 15-minute break take so many minutes every 20 minutes. That never happens. I don't think I've ever had a job where you've done that, but it's making sure that I think your body starts to tell you anyway, that when you're sat at your desk and your back starts to hunch and you start to feel stiff, it's already starting to feel it. So get up. I've given exercises of kickbacks to just stand behind the chair and do kickbacks, any kind of glute exercise, so that you're working your lower back and your glutes, just so that, because you're just sat up on them, that's where the lower back start to hurt. So
today we have Mr. Andy Bradley, who is in the kindness arena, and I'm going to get him to explain a little bit more about that on, isn't this amazing, World Kindness Day.
Yeah!
It just happened to fall on us that it was World Kindness Day. So Andy, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing, Matt. Well, thanks so much for hosting, mate. It's really great to be here. So I've been really consciously thinking about compassion and kindness for 17 years. Started in 2003. We had a mental health crisis in our family. We both had to give up our jobs. The kids were 6 and 10. And I'd done a lot of work in sort of social care. I'd been lucky enough to work with folks with complex learning disabilities. And I was very passionate about being person-centered and family-centered. I was really passionate about that work. And I'd kind of built up a bit of a worry about care, really, and healthcare, and found it all a bit kind of tick box and a bit mechanical. It's just like ticking the boxes. And a lot of my colleagues seemed quite burnt out and a bit flat. So that was part of what was driving me. So I set up this thing called Frameworks for Change in 2003. I sat bolt upright in bed one night. We were in the midst of this crisis. We'd had to move out of home. And I just had the words Frameworks for Change. That's kind of what you've always done. I'd always loved as a manager, because I got into managing care homes. I'd always loved kind of creating frameworks to enable people to change. So that was the first thing. And then I was like, okay, so what's the purpose of this whole thing? And what came to me was, we need to close the compassion gap. There's this compassion gap, which I kept feeling in schools, in hospitals, in care homes, in businesses, on the street, in criminal justice, all of our systems, there's this compassion gap. So then I started saying, so, okay, what's my kind of, if you like, foundational purpose, like in a sentence? And it was, how can we close the compassion gap to make the world a kinder place?
Yeah.
If we want to make the world a kinder place, we have to make this world a kinder place.
Yes.
I have to make this world a kinder place. And I've talked about this stuff for years without really understanding that in my body and in my soul.
Yeah.
And it's still work in progress, but I'm no longer taking baby steps. I'm taking more confident steps.
More confident steps
in caring for myself. And I think building on that, you know, we touched there on sort of habit formation. Just a really simple frame is after I will. So after the kettle boils, so this is just a little practice that I do. After the kettle boils, I will do 20 squats.
Mm-hmm.
After I go for a pee, I will do 15 press-ups.
Yeah.
So the after I will, just maybe viewers might want to have a little think about that one. After I will, and that, and Matt, remind me and remind us what you stand for on your T-shirt there. I do it for me.
The video's going out in as well. I'm doing it for me.
I'm doing it for me, right? So what habits are going to serve you? What habits are going to serve your four energies, your body, your mind, your heart, and your spirit? And you can become really conscious of that. You can go, okay, so every day I'm going to do something for my body, something for my mind, something for my heart, which is maybe that porridge practice I was talking about, something for my spirit.
We don't often see the opportunities that we think. So there's a big thing for me. We need to be open. We need to look into these things to see the gems as and when we approach them.
They are literally ever present.
Yeah.
Literally, kindness is never more than a breath away.
Yeah, and control as well. Sometimes there's an element of we can't control a lot of things. Like we can't control a pandemic, but we can control how safe we feel and how safe we make ourselves and the decisions we make in order to do that.
Yeah, I think kindness is about really surrendering, and letting go of many notions of control, really, and just trusting, just allowing ourselves to just be in our day and allowing whatever is happening to be happening without resisting it. I think that's kindness.
Hi, and welcome to video number 3 of my Ask the Expert series, whatever we're going to call it, where I'm finding people that are experts in their field that don't necessarily find that they are the expert, but it's all about finding out about stories, finding out about backgrounds. And what I'm all about is unearthing powers. So today I've got with me Martin Pemberton, who's got a really interesting story, background, and we're just going to be talking and try to keep it quite chatty. But I'll tell you what, let's get straight in with it. Tell us a bit about you, Martin.
Hi, mate. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, my name's Martin Pemberton. I'm 44 years old now, so cracking on a little bit. But my story essentially is from the age of 8, I fell in love with playing football, and that was my thing. I felt free on the pitch. I loved playing it. I felt like I was good at it, and I made that decision at 8 that I wanted to be a footballer. There was no questions asked in my mind. It was one of those things I just knew was going to happen. It weren't like being arrogant or whatever, but just this. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling of just knowing something is going to happen, but you can't explain how or why. Whatever.
It's a gut feeling.
You just know. You just know it. I said to somebody yesterday, it's like when you used to play with a toy train track. Used to get the training, and when it fit on the tracks perfectly, you feel it. And I said, it's that kind of thing. But you decide at 8, not knowing all the things that you're going to have to maybe go through, challenges. You just go, oh, this is what I'm going to do. But Kerry, played football, got older as I started playing, picked up a few injuries along the way. So once I got to 14, I'd gone to the National Football School trials down in Lilleshall in Shropshire. So it was like for the best players in your age group. And I got down to the last few, but you have to have a medical. And so what we found in the medical was that I'd fractured my back 3 years previously, stress fracture. So I couldn't go to the football school. I had to have a year's complete rest from sport. And so basically it was a year out of doing absolutely nothing. So from being really active, football every day to zero, basically swimming, and that was it. So that was probably the toughest time in that journey getting there. And I still never doubted myself. I still believed that I'd do it, but that was the point at which it became probably, I suppose, a little challenge that we face at times in life. Carried on and it picked up with the football again, and then I ended up starting on the old YTS scheme back in 1992 at Oldham. 2 years apprenticeship. Unbelievable time. It's one of those times in your life where you probably get treated like when you first go into the army, where you get treated like absolute dirt. But there's something about the camaraderie between the lads and all the players that it's also the best time of your life. Do you know what I mean? And you're learning and you're growing. And then I turned pro, I think, at 18. So I'd taken a 10-year period to go from, conception of idea to actually achieving it. That's something that when I speak to kids sometimes about setting goals and following goals. I kind of always mention that there could be a decade-long investment in what you're going to do to reach your goal. Certainly nowadays with the instant gratification and everything on demand, you can get lost in that. I think younger generations understanding that success can take a decent amount of time. It's not going to happen in 5 weeks. It's going to take you 10 years of practice every single day,
Especially as everything's so instantly available nowadays. And as soon as you've put something on social media, you're looking for likes, you're looking for comments, refreshing all the time.
We've become desensitized to it, haven't we? I even mess around the talk about even watching TV now is completely different to when I was a kid. There was only a few channels. You had to watch. The programming wasn't geared necessarily towards you. It was for the family. If you missed an episode of your favourite programme, that was it. You was done, and you had to wait till 6 months later till they put them on the repeats to catch up. Whereas now, there's none of that, because you can pause it, you can just binge watch, you can go back and watch it anytime. So while we didn't have the advances in technology, I think it was giving us patience and that kind of having to wait for stuff. It's like now I've got my Xbox. I don't know about you. I just download it straight on my Xbox now. There's no getting on, saving up some money to get on the bus, to get into town, to go to the shop, to get it to come home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think while we're doing that, we're losing the ability to be patient, to wait, to put kind of work into things. Now that's not people's fault. It's just the sign of the times. But I think these things are being lost. But then once you get into the real world, I think the real world still demands these things from you. It's just that younger generations haven't had the opportunity to practice, and then we get stuck into them and we criticise them for not being able to do what we want them to do, but they've never practiced it or trained to do it. So why would they be able to do it? Do you know what I mean?
Hi everyone, welcome to my Ask the Expert series, where I'm finding people who don't consider themselves experts, but actually realizing that they are experts of their own story. And we're covering lots of topics from mental health to fitness. And I've got Danielle on today, so welcome. And Danielle's going to talk about a few things, a bit about her journey. She's been on a pretty big journey, which we're going to, pretty shrinking journey, which we're going to cover. And hopefully this will resonate and just ask some questions and just make you think about a lot of things. So, Danielle, would you like to start by telling us a bit about you?
Yeah, so my name's Danielle. I am in Newcastle. I've been here for 20 years. I am originally from London, and I was 18 stone 8. I'm now 9 stone 6. So for those that are not mathematicians, I have lost 9 stone, and that is in a period of 12 months.
Wow.
I did the yo-yo dieting and so forth. I mean, you know what it's like. You gain some weight and you think, right, I've got to get this off. And then suddenly you lose weight, but then you get back into the habit of eating like you used to. So then you don't just gain the weight back that you've lost, you then gain some more. And I went through that until from the age of about 15 up until kind of, well, where am I now? 28. So until I was about 26, I really got to the point where I thought, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being that fat mum at the school, you know. I can't be the unhealthy one that can't climb up a flight of stairs without being out of breath. So I got to the point where I just thought enough is enough. And I went to the doctors and I just basically says like, help, you know, and yeah, that's where the journey started 2 years ago.
So it's been quite an incredible couple of years for you then. I mean, how was it? So how was it received when you went to get the help then? Where did you go? Because I'm sure that there'll be people watching today that have either felt some of the feelings that you've just described, been in some of the positions, and are maybe wondering kind of what the steps are for some of this.
So it's all dependent on where you are and the kind of the trusts of your hospital and so forth. So from what I know, I'm in obviously Newcastle. My trust was Sunderland, and they go through like a tier stage. So at first you go to the doctors and you go, look, you know, I need help. And based on your BMI and any underlying health conditions, they then can say, you know what, you know, the traditional methods of say a diet and kind of what they would normally suggest isn't suitable anymore. So they pass you forward to the bariatric team within the hospital. And for me, it all really started from there. So what happens is you go to the doctor, as I say, you basically beg them for help, and then they do some calculations and they go, yep, you know what, you actually qualify. But just because you qualify at that stage doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get the surgery. So it started, as I say, 2 years ago. Oh, actually 3 years ago, because I'm a year out now. I keep forgetting that one. So it started around about 3 years ago, where, as I say, I went to the doctors, and from there you get invited to like a seminar, and you all sit in a room, and there's probably about 30 or 40 of you in that room, all of you on the similar journey of you want to lose weight. And you meet with the dietitian, you meet with a surgeon, you get weighed, you kind of they do like a kind of a question and answering session about, you know, what the surgeries are. So there's 4 types. You've got a gastric sleeve, you've got a mini gastric bypass, you've got a gastric bypass, and you've got a gastric band. There are a few variations because they are changing them as time goes on, and they are kind of not recommending a gastric band now because they slip and they're not as safe and so forth. But there are other options for you. But when you're in that room, they discuss with you things such as, you know, your mortality rate, because at the end of the day, you're going on a table and you're either getting your stomach removed, stitched, stapled, and complications can happen. So at that point, they make sure you're ready by going, you know, you've got a 1 in X amount of thousands to die. You know, this is what your life is going to be like afterwards. You have to amend your diet completely and utterly because of this. It's not a way of change, you know, it's not the be all and end all. Once you have this surgery, it's not the case of that's it, you're going to be skinny forever. You have work that you've got to do behind it before the surgery and afterwards, you know. And
you've turned out, you know, like you are in the position that you're in, you know, you're very acceptant. I suppose now you're very acceptant of your body. I'm sure there's times when you're less so. I'm sure there's ups and downs, and there's times of frustration and whatnot. I
call myself a cold Costco chicken if I refer to my chicken. You know, if I refer to my excess skin, I make jokes out of it because I've always been like that. I used to make jokes out of being the fat girl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm acceptant. I'm not doing that in the sense of denigrating myself. I'm describing myself so that people can see that I'm okay with that. You know. I'm okay with being a cold chicken that's gone cold because I sit and play with it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I wonder if I cut it all off, how much it would actually weigh. Not that I would, because I'm petrified of going back under again in terms of surgery, but I love it. I think it's absolutely great.
Is there anything that you could give someone advice on? So they're at the start of this journey, no matter what position you're in, no matter what weight you are, but you know you need change. You know you want change, and you feel that. If there's one piece of advice you could give someone at that point, what would it be?
Make sure you've understood why you're doing what you're doing with your relationship with food and your weight before you get to the end point, because there are so many people that will be on the last hurdle. You've gone through 2-3 years of this and they've stopped you getting that surgery at that point because you haven't understood that hurdle. Make sure you know why you're doing this, why you've been the way you are before you get to that point, because you could send yourself in a black hole if you don't, if that makes sense. And I would say listen to your body more than anything else, and listen to your head, because if there's a reason why you're eating 16 bags of crisps and a 2-kilogram bar of chocolate, then fix that first.
So as you can see, I've had some incredible guests on the show already, and I've got a lot more, but I thought I'd clip these up just to see if you wanted to hear the full conversations. They are on my YouTube channel and my podcast channel. So if you want to catch Danielle, Martin, Andy or Kat and see any more about what they want to say, please visit those. In the meantime, stay super.